It's Debbie Potts. Are you on a mission, as myself, to improve the aging process so you can get stronger, faster, and more powerful as you age? That is my goal. So to help me on my mission, I brought on Dr. Minkoff for a 2-part series on how we can find the perfect protein.
Welcome to the Low Carb Athlete Podcast, where we focus on discussing topics to help you burn fat, optimize health, and improve performance in life and sports. Transform the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method. Let's dive in. Here's your host, Debbie Potts.
Hello, my favorite low-carb aging athletes. I just wanted to share with you a special coupon code that I have from one of my favorite supplements, BioOptimizers. BioOptimizers has some great products that I often recommend to my health coaching clients based on their nutritional therapy analysis and their functional labs and food log symptoms that we look at. And a few of those are from BioOptimizers called HCl Breakthrough, Gluten Guardian, Magnesium Breakthrough, Capex, and their Masszymes enzymes, which is the strongest enzyme formula ever. And it has 5 different kinds of protease. Often we don't digest our food properly. So we are what we eat, but we also are what we can properly break down and absorb. So learn more from BioOptimizers. Check out their website and use our code LowCarbAthlete next time you go to purchase something. Enjoy. Today's guest is Dr. David Minkoff. He is a leading physician, best-selling author, athlete, and devoted family man on a mission to help people optimize their health and vitality so they can live a prosperous life. He is the founder of LifeWorks Wellness Center, one of the largest alternative medical clinics in the U.S., and Body Health, a nutrition company offering a unique range of dietary supplements. Dr. Minkoff has a diverse background as a board-certified doctor in pediatrics, a fellow in infectious disease, an ER physician, and the co-director of Neonatal Intensive Care Unit. Dr. Minkoff is an author of the best-selling book, The Search for the Perfect Protein, and an expert in hormone replacement, functional medicine, allergy elimination, biological medicine, neurotherapy, but the list goes on, ozone therapy, longevity, aging, and more. He has filled with so much knowledge, but also he's in his 70s and he's completed 43, I think that's the last one, maybe 43, 44 Ironmans. He's qualified for Kona Championship, World Championship 8 times. When he's not training, he devotes his time to his wife of over 50 years, their 3 children, and 8 grandchildren. So what are we talking about? My favorite topic right now is muscle protein synthesis and how to improve our muscle health as we age so we do not get old and frail and weak and have no balance. And if we fall, we're in trouble. So I'm all about creating our future self now by focusing on our muscle health. So what is this about? Proteins. This is information from Dr. Minkoff's book. Proteins, they're the basic building blocks of the human body, but most people are malnourished in amino acids, which are required to form protein. This is a deficiency that can lead to diabetes, obesity, cancer, and chronic diseases. It's a serious problem for which Dr. David Minkoff offers a powerful solution in his book, The Search for Perfect Protein. As we said, he's a medical doctor and Ironman triathlete. He provides a new appreciation and an understanding of these vital components of life and wellness. He examines the healthful or harmful effects of the foods you eat regularly. He explores the importance of clean proteins into the diet while offering indispensable guidance on where you need to find them. Not all proteins are created equal. They are not just for bodybuilders. Whether you are a female or male, young or old, athlete or couch potato, the search for the perfect protein will lead you to a stronger, healthier life. So let's dive into this 2-part series of finding the perfect protein and learning all about the role of amino acids with Dr. David Minkoff. Hello, fellow aging athletes. It's Debbie Potts, and I am talking today to Dr. Minkoff. And you may have heard of him. He is very well known in the Ironman world. He's actually finished Ironman Hawaii 8 times, 43 full Ironman triathlons. So he's done his share of races. He's a leading physician, a best-selling author, athlete, obviously, and devoted family man on a mission to help people optimize their health and vitality so they can live a prosperous life. Right in hand with what I'm focused on, how to recreate ourselves now so we can live our best lives, our second half of our life, and create the optimal future self. Who do you want to be when you're 70, 80, 90, 100 years old? Let's start doing what we can do now so we are thriving as we get older, stay youthful as we age, and improve daily performance in life, and hopefully continue doing the sports, the activities, the outdoor adventures that we love to do. So how do we do that? We need to learn how to fuel and train and perform slightly different as we age. We're going to talk about protein, of course, amino acids, and what other things that we can look at to optimize our genetic potential, key to solving weight loss, fatigue, how to improve recovery and repair, and all areas of health and fitness for the aging athlete. So let's dive in to all things health optimization for the aging athlete who wants to be fit and healthy from the inside out. Hang on. Okay, I'm excited to talk about my favorite topic, prioritizing health for the aging athlete, how to improve ourselves today so we can thrive as we get older, not struggle. So, Dr. David Minkoff, thanks for joining my podcast to be fit and healthy from the inside out as we age.
Thank you, Debbie. Excited to be here. Yeah.
You're in Florida and I'm in San Diego. We're just chatting about you used to live here and the triathlon mecca. It used to be in the 80s with Mark Allen and all these other triathletes started here and moved on, and you moved on and you're still racing.
Yes, I'm still racing. It was Mark Allen and Scott Tinley.
He still lives here.
Scott Molina. The big 3 out of 4. Dave Scott never came to San Diego, but those were glory days. I did my first Ironman in 1982, and there was a Nike sponsored team. I was on the team. It was heaven. Like, it was heaven.
You didn't stay here. Some people, I know Bob Babbitt's in Solana Beach here too. And so there's a lot of people from the area, but you wanted warmer waters to swim in, you said?
Yeah, the career-wise, we were in San Diego for 16 years. I did my residency and internship residency and fellowship at UCSD. And then I stayed on and I was an infectious disease doctor, and I was part-time faculty there. And then in 1990, we moved here to Florida.
Yeah. So I know UCSD is pretty on top of it for integrative medicine and really looking at a different perspective, it seems, than other universities in the medical system and their hospitals, more progressive.
Very little. Yeah, very little. I have a doctor that just joined me who finished her residency in internal medicine at UCSD, and she almost got killed there sort of spiritually and psychologically because the sort of culture there of this, we are the authorities and you do what we say, and, wear your mask and shut up and get your vaccine was just about killed her. So she I don't think the culture there is moved very far, at least at her level. That may not be true because I have experience with one person, but that was her.
So what's your focus? What are you working on? What's your mission, your why, that your, medical system, but also as an athlete and health optimization? Talk a little bit about what drives you.
So career-wise, I want to transform the healthcare system so that it actually is a healthcare system and not a disease system. Whole orientation, the whole sort of structure control is pharmaceutical government. We're gonna sell you things that don't really make your health better. They may help you. I'm not anti-pharmaceutical, but the progress that's been made and that should be what people are being taught is how to eat, how to live, what's important, sleep and relationships and these sorts of things. And the healthcare system is very little about that. There are some pockets now that are happening, but even at the beginning of the COVID epidemic, 86%, I think, of all the people who died of COVID had a vitamin D level that was below 30. We try to keep our patients in a level of 70 to 90. People who have, so you're in a nursing home, you're 78 years old, you got a vitamin D level, it's 10, you're eating crappy food, you never get outside. Those are the people who mostly died. And it was, and so the focus at the time was really on all the wrong things. It should have been, who died? It's people with 4 or 5 other comorbidities. They were diabetics, they were obese, they never exercised, they ate lousy food, they had low vitamin D levels, they were nutritionally malnourished. And if you would have sort of put into the environment at that early time, hey, here's what it takes to be healthy and to not die of a significant infectious disease. This was not a nothing thing, but 99% of people who got it survived. And the ones that didn't survive are the ones that were just very vulnerable. And it was based on their lifestyle and their habits. And I think if that focus went in, even now, that's what we're trying to do is how can you help people learn to understand their bodies? What does it take to be healthy? How can you I'm 75, how can you at 75, work a 10-hour day, train for triathlons, have a good family life and enjoy yourself? Because, when I started doing triathlons in my 30s, there would be sometimes 800-900 people in an age group to race. And now I race a lot and there might be 4 or 5 of us on a big race or 2 of us in a small race. And it's like, where are you guys? Where are you guys? Why aren't you out here? It's no fun, to enter a race and know you're going to win your age group and there's only one other guy there.
Yeah.
So I think that the whole notion of what is aging, when are you old? Like my goal for the last 10 years has been, I want to win my age group in Hawaii when I'm 85 years old. So, that's 10 years ahead, but I'm thinking about that every day and I'm planning on it. So I think when you get people oriented the right way, they do things and they live such that they can get there.
Yeah.
And, I may never make it, but by golly, I'm trying. And, it's an attitude about, what are you here for and what are you supposed to do? And so part of my mission is really to teach people this and get them to understand it. And there isn't any quick fix, it's not, health is not, there's no free lunch in health. You can't eat at McDonald's 3 days a week or have coffee and a bagel for breakfast and think that you're going to be healthy. There's just no way. The stresses in the environment now are very high, worse than they've ever been. Hundreds of thousands of toxic chemicals, toxic food. We do a toxin panel on every patient that we see, and everybody flunks. Everybody's full of BPA. Everybody's full of glyphosate. I've never had a patient, I've done thousands of these, that didn't have urine full of glyphosate, which is Roundup. Okay. And if we're going to turn the society, what has to happen is the only vote that counts is what you buy. The only thing that matters is where do you spend your money?
Your choices, what choices you make.
And if you go to places that have organic food and places that have toxic-free food and support farms that grow animals in a sustainable way, then that is where the big boys who run everything are going to go. And then it will be available on a bigger scale. If you buy artificial meat and all this other stuff, that is what's going to come. And that just isn't what human bodies were designed to eat. And they don't work. So
is that kind of what you're working on with your clients in your clinic, how we can optimize our health? And I keep saying, what we can do now to recreate ourselves so we are our best version of our future self. And that is taking ownership of our health, what we're doing now, making the choices. We choose to do these different things and how to make the right choices with nutrition, exercise, lifestyle habits to be a health optimizer. Is that kind of working on the foundations first?
Yeah. And your cells turn over, within a year, most of your cells have turned over. So you can grow yourself a new body. Your bones are slower, but most of the tissues in the body have a turnover rate and they grow new cells, and the new cells get filled up with whatever you're putting in there now. And so if a person got sort of not serious, but got dedicated to generating a new body, that within a year, most of what your body tissues are now aren't going to be those. Those are going to be new tissues, and they're going to incorporate the new stuff that you do. And that's really important. Most of my practice is people with serious unsolved medical problems. It's people, our average patient has seen 13 doctors without a solution. So they've got cancer and autoimmune disease and Alzheimer's and all these other stuff. And they have been somewhat, most of this isn't a genetic problem. Okay. It's not their genes that are bad. It's been a lifestyle problem for almost everybody. And they probably didn't do it on purpose, but they did it because they just didn't know what to do, or they weren't coached right, or they had a physician tell them, well, you got high blood pressure, you take this drug or these 2 or 3 drugs, because high blood pressure don't work for many people. And never mind that now you have ED because the drugs cause that, but I've got another pill for that. And your cholesterol's too high and I got a pill for that. And your joints hurt and I got a pill for that. And you got borderline diabetes and I got a pill for that. And if you think that you can ever get longevity and health out of that, it's very hard. And so, these patients come in and they're loaded. When I was one of the things I did when I first got to Florida was I was an emergency room doctor. And a lot of people that come to the emergency room live in nursing homes, and they have a problem and they put them they call the ambulance and they bring them in. And our average patient was on 12 prescriptions. Okay. And so you get an older person who's kind of out of it, and it seems like they got a bellyache, but they can't tell you. And they come to the emergency room. And so we had a computer in the emergency room where you could plug in all their medications, and it would give you interactions between the medications or side effects from those medications. But the computer, if you put in more than 3 drugs, would go tilt, because you look at any drug you want, look at the physician's desk reference or one of the drug manuals. The lists are pages of potential side effects. And when you put 12 of them together, there's no way anybody could figure out what's going on. And one of the routine things that we would do is put an IV in them, give them some hydration, put them upstairs, hold all their drugs. Their regular physician would see them in the morning, and then he would make a decision on what they really had to continue, what they didn't. And a lot of times, if the drugs came off, the person would wake up, they would feel better. It was interactions. It was It was the pharmacology that was actually hurting the person. And so, if you look at leading causes of death in the United States, if you go, the last good statistics are like 2019. Just Google leading causes of death. Number 1 is heart attacks. Number 2 is cancer. Number 3 right now is mental decline on some version or another, assisted by diabetes and other things. But then if you go to Google and you put in number of deaths in the United States and the term is called iatrogenic. So it's IATROGENIC. Iatrogenic means doctor caused. Number of doctor caused related deaths in the United States. It's more than all the people who died of heart attacks. Because drug reactions, hospital wrong surgeries, falls in hospitals related to doctor prescribed things, it can be very dangerous. Now, I'm not anti-medicine at all, because there are aspects of medicine which are wonderful. If you're having a heart attack, if you need a C-section, if you break your leg, like modern medicine is spectacular. But if you have a lifestyle related illness, fatigue, diabetes, pain, no energy, depression, anxiety, modern medicine is terrible at these things. If your goal is actually health. And so you got to pay attention to these other lifestyle considerations and diet and supplementation. And most people can really be helped by that if they know what to do.
Yes, I know firsthand. And I won't go talk about this and I'll start crying, but my dad just died last year. And I just was talking to my mom this morning about it. And it's not the focus of the podcast today, but it is. I always blame the doctors because he had a heart disease. He had a heart attack 10 years before, heart disease doctor. Then he got a type of cancer. So he's on some chemo drug that kept damaging him more and trying to figure out what chemo drug to give him that affected his kidneys. And then he had the kidney doctor who just wanted to do kidney dialysis. And all three of them kept giving them more meds and didn't look at how the body works and treat the patient. So yeah, but I want to get into if the athlete, I think so many athletes, as I try to share on this show, are endurance athletes training for Ironmans, 50Ks, long distance cycling events, whatever endurance events, but how to improve the aging process, because long distance cardio, chronic cardio isn't so ideal for our body and the stress and our hormones and damage oxidative stress. What can we do to improve the aging process so we are fit and healthy from the inside out?
So it's all the stuff we said, but I think that when you're doing extreme things, that you have to figure out for yourself what's the least effective dose.
Minimal effective dose. I say that all the time.
Yeah. And then I think that you have to hook up with someone knowledgeable who can evaluate you, test you, and see, are you handling what you're doing? Levels of vitamins, minerals, amino acids, get a stool test, see what kind of bugs are growing in your gut. These are things that you might not feel right away, but when you get down the road and the stressors accumulate, then you will get hit. And then if something like COVID comes or you get, a toxic exposure, then your body, while you might be doing okay, or you think you're doing okay, is a little bit fragile, and it can take you down. So I think preventive health means knowing where you are, so that the things that we're all accumulating tons of toxins in our body, and everyone has their limit. And when you hit your limit and then you get overextended by doing too much or being exposed to too much, then you'll go down. And then that is either injury, or it's poor response to training, or it's, fatigue or poor sleep or hangnails, or you get the flu And 6 weeks later, you still can't go for a good run because your body is just tanked. Your mitochondria are all stressed out and they don't make energy anymore. And so I think that being on top of that and there's all kinds of people who are doing this. There's health coaches and there's chiropractors and naturopaths and MDs and Debbie to do the needed tests so that you can check out and you can know what you're doing. I got into the amino acid business because I injured myself. I was training for Ironman triathlons. I thought I could be a vegetarian and it would work out. Well, I got protein malnourished. I tore my hamstring at the UCSD track. Okay. I used to go there once a week and do repeat quarters or halves, and I tore my hamstring. And I could not get it to heal. I did everything. I heated it, colded it, chiropractored it, massaged it, acupunctured it, injected it, would not stably heal. And every time I tried to push a little bit, I could feel it. It was painful. And it turned out I was essential amino acid deficient. And I had no idea. I was sure that I was on a good diet. And when I measured my serum amino acids, they were very low. And I started playing with amino acid blends and came up with what we now call perfect amino. And in 6 weeks, my hamstring healed. And I couldn't believe it. Like, that was the joyous thing that ever happened to me in my life. Okay. Because doing triathlons was very important to me.
I think everyone understands that.
So that was like June or July. And I had done Ironman Canada probably a dozen times. And it's a hard race. That
was my favorite. I did it for years.
Yeah. So I had my best race ever. I did the swim in 62 minutes. I had trouble there a couple of times because it was cold and I had very low body fat. Anyway, and then I had a great bike ride, and I think I did 11:20 or something. That was my best Ironman. And it was, and I was fine. And I gained all this lean body mass from doing nothing more than I was doing before. I was protein malnourished and I couldn't, my body couldn't do it. So I think people need help to sort themselves out. And then they can do better, and they'll see the response in their own body. They'll see the improvements.
Yeah. And
then just the last part of that. Then I think, Phil Maffetone wrote this book must be 30 years ago, but in fitness and health, something about an athlete. And I learned this from him because he's a contemporary of mine. We're about the same age. And he was hanging around San Diego, and I spent a lot of time with him learning his ideas, and his ideas are still the most valid things around.
Yeah.
If you're healthy, you can be a long-lived athlete for a long time. But if you're not healthy, you may have a peak few years, but you'll miss your best years. You're 25 years old and you're very fast now, but your body is really going downhill. You're not going to win an Ironman at age 37 or win a marathon at age 37 or even do your best, which is what should be happening. And so this health criteria is really good. Are you recovering? Are you in pain all the time? And then assessments of that so that you can then plug in the right supplements, nutrients, other modalities to help yourself recover.
I have 1,000 questions. Yeah, I totally agree. I think I used to race, and my listeners know my story. I got adrenal exhaustion, air quotes, 2013, right after we had our Superhuman Coach Conference, and we're talking about adrenal issues and HPA axis. And it's kind of the beginning of all that. And I damaged my body in a way that I've never been able to get to that level again. And so it's my purpose, I find, to help other athletes avoid doing what I did to myself. So in the past 10 years, I became a nutritional therapy practitioner and an FDN practitioner where I'm more a health investigator. Now I'm doing Wild Health Fellowship next year to get into the genetic side of it. But it's getting people to understand not to wait until you're broken, to take action now, because I struggle getting clients to listen to their body, listen to those red flags, invest in their health. They don't want to spend $300, $500 on coaching or a functional lab test until they're broken. And I'm trying to get it across to people. Don't wait until you can't do what you love to do. Take preventative action now, because you don't have to take years to repair yourself and the damage that you do from chronic stress of doing everything too much. And that minimal effective dose, as we spoke about, is so important. So it's looking at us being in a catabolic state was my other question, going back to protein. That, do you think that you and other athletes, we're pushing ourselves, we're doing a lot of endurance exercise and people are not doing as much resistance training as they should. But with the information out now, muscle protein synthesis and muscle health as the organ of longevity, and Dr. Gabrielle Lyon and Donald Layman talking about the importance of prioritizing protein and resistance training. I'm always wondering if we, or myself, I wasn't eating enough protein. One, two, that I wasn't digesting it properly, because it's hard to digest and break down, especially if you have low stomach acid or H. pylori, you don't have the right enzymes to break it down. And then we're in a catabolic state from doing the chronic cardio, so to speak, and being stressed out all the time. So it's just, the importance of protein supplementation, I think, is so important for the athlete that's driven, ambitious, endurance athlete, but also just people that are trying to survive life.
Yeah. And the whole metabolic aspect of this, because a lot of people are metabolically unhealthy.
Yes.
Their fasting insulins are high, their glucoses may be high, their triglycerides may be high. Like, these are really important things, because they tell you what's the state of your biochemistry. The body is basically a biochemical, very sophisticated, put together. And if the biochemistry is not working right, then you're either not up to your potential or you're on a slide to go down.
Yeah.
And that really makes a difference. When Oura Ring first came out, I bought one because I like to experiment. And so I was getting sleep scores in like the mid 50s. Now, I had acclimated myself to not sleep much because there's a lot of things I like to do. And I figured when I died, I'd sleep. But until I died, I wasn't going to sleep any more than I absolutely had to. Now, some of it was because of career, because when I was in the hospital, I was an infectious disease doctor and pediatrician. We were on call every third night, and I could sleep for 4.5 hours and get by, And then if I was going to get up at 4:30 or 5 o'clock and train for 3 hours, and then go to the office at 8 o'clock, and then work till 6 or 7, and then come home and have, I've got kids and a wife and all that stuff. Well, there just wasn't room. So, if I got to bed by 11:30 and I got up at 4:30 and I'd be at the swim practice at 5 o'clock, I was just like, fine. So I continued that for a long time. And I get this ring and my scores are like, man, you're terrible. You're terrible. And I was just like oblivious to it. And so I sort of just made a decision. Okay, I'm going to get in bed every night by 10 o'clock, lights off. And I wake up usually about 4:45, so close to 7 hours. And my sleep scores, my score this morning was 85. It's really good. My readiness score was 87. So like you get these tools and they help you.
I got mine.
You can be numb and dumb and not really know what's going on. And it only works for so long. And so if you start to tune into this stuff, you can be wiser and you can be healthier. And I actually feel way better than I used to. I just thought that's how you felt when you were doing all that stuff.
Yeah. You don't know how good you could feel. You just accept that's your new normal. And that's how your body operates.
Yeah. And so, and then you have bandwidth to do this, to do the hard track day or to do the long run day or, to beat yourself up in the pool, with where the bodies actually can accommodate the stress and win from the stress and not just get further broken down from the stress.
Yeah. No, I do think that's what my mission on this podcast is, to help athletes that are still training and racing a lot, or even just me who trains just because I like to. I don't have any race anymore to go for, but I just do what I love to do, that we need to remember how to make sure we're recovering and repairing and test and not guess if we are metabolically healthy, because I find that we all go to the doctor and maybe you go to the doctor and get an annual checkup, and I try to get the blood work, give them my list, and insurance doesn't cover anything. And the lab work all comes back and you're normal, and they're awful. And I get so frustrated because I know our functional ranges and what we do as FDM practitioners and look at optimal. And when I have to go through a client's labs that they think they're all normal, but they can't figure out what's wrong, I'm like, well, let's look at it in our lens, a different perspective in functional medicine, and correlate all this information together. It's like, whoa, we've got red flags all over here. But if you don't see someone in the functional space, everyone's fine. You're normal. You're doing great. Keep it up. See you next year. And they don't know what even their insulin is or their vitamin D.
Right. And most of the people that are practicing medicine have no understanding of this. They don't know anything about it, and they are not helpful. And so you just have to see somebody like yourself or somebody like me, where people are, you're putting the magnifying glass on there and really looking at the things that are markers that show like you're actually doing okay or you're not. I mean, I have a referral practice of people who are very accomplished at what they're doing. Some of them are NASCAR drivers, and some of them are professional golfers, and some of them are triathletes or they're CrossFit guys, where they want to compete and they love it. And they find sort of a like-minded person in me. And so when we start looking at the things, I just tell them, you just have to budget for health. And that's testing and supplements and practitioner fees. And I think you just set aside a certain portion of your budget where you can afford to get this stuff, because you're going to spend $3,000-$4,000 on testing if it's really good testing.
Yeah, it costs a lot.
And but then you get information that will help you for years ahead, and forego a long weekend vacation or whatever if it's not in your budget, so that you can you only got one body go around this time, and if you have things that you want to get done, you want to keep it going. There's a perspective on this which has helped me. I'll just tell it to you. In the days of Moses, so this is like 1000 BC, okay, so like 3,000 years ago. When Moses died, he was 120 years old. And so he was the patriarch of the whole people, and he was setting the example of what should happen. And so the culture adopted this idea that you should live to 120. Like that's what's expected of you, okay? So if someone was 75 and they said, well, how old are you? And they said, well, I'm 75/120. It's like I'm only 75 or 65 into 120. So before I started really thinking about this, I'm thinking, oh God, I'm 75. I've outlived both my parents. Okay. That sounds terrible. And I could feel my body do like a sag, like, okay. And then I thought, oh no, Moses, I'm 75/120. Oh, I'm good. I'm good. And the whole body goes like, oh, we're good. Let's go for it. There's medical studies where they ask people at 40, how long do you think you're going to live? And they give a number. And most people come within 2 years of their number. So set a high number. And then if you knew you were going to live that long, what would you do now so that you could make it? You wouldn't go to Taco Bell. I guarantee it.
No, I just watch all my parents' friends in their 80s and watching people I've known for 30 years and seeing when they're 80 something, what's happening. And it just makes me frustrated and just of our whole system. So with that, how does protein play a role in this? You created the perfect amino acid years ago and wrote a book about it. What's the problem with protein? And you talked about not getting enough of it, being vegetarian. But let's talk about protein and why are we so malnourished and why is it such a big topic suddenly that I guess we went from paleo to carnivore to keto to carnivore. Now it's all protein, muscle protein synthesis. So it's good for your business.
Right. So protein is the basic structure of the whole tissues of all the body. So it's your organs, it's your bones, it's your immune system, it's all your enzymes, and you need it. Okay. The normal way that someone gets protein is they eat something that's protein. And, for the 2.5 billion year history of humans on Earth, most of the proteins were related to animal related proteins. There was no grains until 10,000 years ago when people ate fish and deer and rabbits and whatever they could find. A good portion of that 2 million years was ice age, and so there weren't a lot of fruits and vegetables around. People just ate, they ate animals. And meat is the only nutritional product that has everything that you need. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't eat other things, but our bodies now have a super challenge because in order to take the protein from the food that we eat, it has to be processed, so to speak, so that it can be broken down so that our bodies can actually accept it. Now, a protein is made up of smaller units, which are called amino acids. Amino in Greek means nitrogen. So these are carbon, hydrogen, oxygen molecules that have nitrogen added to them. So if you took a muscle fiber from a chicken leg or a lamb chop, and you were able to magnify it millions of times at one fiber of protein, what you would find is that single muscle fiber had about 5,600 separate amino acids that made up that one fiber.
Whoa.
Now there's about 22 amino acids. And so the body, these are like if you're gonna create a necklace and there's a formula for, a red bead and a blue bead and a white bead, and then that formula repeats. The way proteins are manufactured in the body is similar. There's a template of here's what this muscle protein looks like, or here's what this digestive enzyme looks like, or here's what this, insulin or growth hormone looks like, because those are all proteins. And so the body has to be able to break down that muscle fiber with 5,600 amino acids in it into single amino acids, because the intestine won't absorb that gigantic, so to speak, structure. It won't go in. Now, in order for that to happen, it goes into the stomach. There's a digestive enzyme in the stomach called pepsin. It only works when there's acid. Probably at least 50 or 60% of the people above 30 years old don't manufacture enough stomach acid. They're iron deficient, they're iodine deficient, they're zinc deficient, they don't manufacture enough stomach acid, which means that this pepsin doesn't get activated, which means the first step in breaking down this 5,600 amino acid chain isn't happening very well. Now, that gets passed on to the small intestine, and the pancreas is supposed to make some more enzymes to break that down further. And many, many people are pancreatic enzyme insufficient because pancreatic enzymes are proteins. Now, if you're not getting enough protein, your weak link in your body might be that you don't make enough pancreatic enzymes. So now you're trying to digest that thing down further, and it doesn't happen very well. Not that it doesn't happen at all, just doesn't happen as well as it should. Now, when you don't have stomach acid and you eat some sushi or you eat some vegetables, and virtually you eat anything, because none of the food, nobody's eating boiled, sterile food. That food has bacteria and yeast and God knows what on it. And the way the body protects itself when that food comes in is it boils it in stomach acid. But the guy doesn't have stomach acid. Or there's 25 million people in the United States that take drugs that block stomach acid. Okay. You want to kill yourself? Take those drugs. I'm not telling you to stop, but in 99% of people, you can be fixed so that you don't need that drug. So then if you don't have stomach acid, your absorption of minerals and your ability to digest proteins goes way down. And now you get overgrowth in your small intestine of yeast and bacteria. And this is called SIBO. And SIBO is very, very common. And when you get SIBO, you inflame the inner lining of your intestine where the absorption is supposed to happen of these single amino acids, and then they don't get absorbed either. And then you're gluten intolerant, or you're dairy intolerant, or you're peanut intolerant, or you're peach intolerant. It doesn't matter. You're eating foods that bother you, and your body says, those aren't good for me, and you eat them anyway, or you take some Nexium to block the reaction. And those cause swelling in the inner lining of the intestine. And now you really don't absorb stuff, and you've got an inflammatory reaction going on inside the body. And no wonder you don't absorb amino acids very well. And if you're starting with low protein diets, like vegetarians and vegans, I can take an amino acid panel. You don't tell me anything about that person, their age, anything. And you show me their serum, it's fasting level of serum amino acids. And I will tell you 99 times out of 100, there's a vegetarian or a vegan, because they're severely protein malnourished. Okay. There's a few people that get away with it because they have an intestinal flora that will manufacture amino acids for them, but it's very rare. And if you've been on it for more than 6 to 12 months, you're gonna be protein malnourished. So if you don't have the things that you need, then your body can't perform. Now, your intestinal lining is supposed to turn over every 4 or 5 days. But guess what happens if you're protein malnourished? It doesn't turn over every 4 or 5 days. It might be a week. You might get an injury, or you work out real hard. Well, if you have enough protein or usable amino acids, you heal pretty quick. If you don't, you heal slow, or you get chronic injuries, or you don't get improved performance when you work out, because your body can't take the stress of the weights or the track or the bicycle and fix the things that you stressed, which would then be able to make you stronger, but it can't do it because it's got a laundry list of muscles, tendons, ligaments, neurotransmitters, bone, gastric intestinal lining. And at the end of the day, it's like I can't complete my list because I don't have the stuff I need. And this is like almost everybody walking around. Mm-hmm. So if you eat enough protein, if you go with layman, a gram per pound of body weight, that is a boatload of protein. Okay. I've tried it. It's really hard. I have to eat 170 grams of protein every day. I can't do it. Okay. It's just too much. Okay. 4 eggs is only 30 grams of protein. How am I going to get to 170? I can't eat more than 4 eggs at one time. And you have to eat the yolks because the protein's no good without the yolks. So like the whites are very inefficient. So my solution has been, and this is what I do with people, this perfect amino formula are amino acids, and they're like 3 times the efficiency of good meat protein. And so if you take 2 scoops of perfect amino, essential amino acids, that is equal to 30 grams of steak. The nice thing about it is there's virtually no calories in it. Your body doesn't have to digest it. It is absorbed through the stomach lining and in your blood within 23 minutes. And so if I get up and I take 2 scoops of perfect amino first thing in the morning, I got 30 grams of protein in the tank right away. Okay. And then some people are eating breakfast. Some people aren't. If you're trying to eat 170 grams of protein in 2 meals, good luck. Yeah. Okay. Good luck. You can't do it. Probably more than 40 or 50 grams of protein in a given meal, you're not going to be able to even digest it or use it. It's just too much. Mm-hmm. So if I take 2 scoops in the morning, And then I have 4 eggs. So now I got 30 of perfect amino and I got 30 grams of eggs. And then at lunch, I have a 6 to 8 ounce portion of some kind of meat, fish. And at dinner, I have another portion of the same thing. And I take another 2 scoops of perfect amino. I hit my 170, 160. Okay. And I tell you, it really works.
So with that, your muscle protein synthesis, I listen to Layman and Gabrielle Lyons podcast together all the time, and you need the dose spread out. What are your suggestions? The 30, 50 grams to get the benefit, and it has to have the leucine threshold.
When you do it that much, you get the leucine threshold. So that's not a problem. And right, you can't do a mono meal and do this.
So you can't just have like 10 grams of protein and then 2 hours later have another 10 grams. You need that right dose to create the response for the muscles.
We found that with perfect amino, if you take 1 or 2 tablets, you're sort of wasting your time.
Yeah.
But if you get 10 grams, you get that bolus and that hits the system. And it's like, oh, here's the signal. We got amino acids now. Now we're going to make protein.
The 10 grams, hold on though. Sorry to interrupt. The 10 grams is how many
2
tablets?
Scoops.
But if you take the pills,
10
10 tablets. Okay.
And what's interesting is I find if anybody who's doing endurance athletics, you take these amino, there's this thing of when the brain thinks that the body could be injured by what you're doing, you're going too hard, too long. Mm-hmm. It shuts off here, and then you don't have the power, or the muscles feel sore, or you feel like you reach your VO2 threshold. But really the brain hits it before as a protective thing, hits it before. And we have electrolytes with perfect amino and I usually add a scoop of perfect amino in my water bottle with the electrolytes, because if you're feeding that central nervous system these amino acids, it's getting the signal of, oh boy, we're good. Mm-hmm. We got the recovery stuff in us now. We got it. We're okay. And I can tell a difference because I don't feel sort of bonky. I can feel bright even with long, hard workouts, because the body actually responds to it very well.
So just to jump onto that comment, do you, when you're training on the bike and you're putting that in your water bottle, the aminos, are you doing any other fuel source along the way? Are you just,
if it's long, I do. I usually add ribose. So, and I'll add a mixture with, we have a greens and a reds product, and there's some carbs in there, and there's a lot of phytonutrients in there. Mm-hmm. So, so I'll add those in. And then if I'm doing a half Ironman or an Ironman, I will take bars. I will take food with me. I get hungry. I'm not trying to do it all liquid.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I wear a transcutaneous glucose monitor. Mm. And so everyone in my family is obese and everyone's diabetic. Okay. And I could be if I wasn't really careful.
They're type 2 or 1?
2. They're all 2. Okay. So I've been wearing the monitor for a couple of years, and it's very interesting. Like a healthy if you took a body and you drained all the blood and you measured how much glucose was in all of your blood volume, your 5 or 6 liters of blood, it would be equal to about a teaspoon of sugar, about 5 grams. Mm-hmm. Now, diabetics only have 10 grams. The difference between healthy metabolic glucose is only 5 more grams of sugar circulating in the guy's blood, and now he's a full-fledged diabetic. Mm-hmm. I think that athletes, if they measured this, and I just did this last weekend because I was playing around with it. So I went for a 2-hour run. I usually run with just perfect amino, and I usually run pretty much fasted. And I'm very fat adapted, and I do fine. And I thought, I'm just going to see what happens. And my blood sugar is between 85 and 90. I feel fine. I take a goo, okay, at like 4 miles. Within 20 minutes, my blood sugar goes from 85 to 169.
Wow.
talk about stressing a chemical system.
Yeah.
Like you think you're helping your body just got IV, it wasn't IV, it was oral, a sugar dose, which throws the whole thing sort of upside down. Like, oh my God, what are we going to do with all this sugar? It isn't a benefit. It's the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean you can't take calories, but I think one of these performance things that I think people should test on, that you get help and test with yourself is what does give you a response that's very balanced, that keeps your glucose level good. Because some people will run long and their glucoses will go low and they can't make enough, mobilize enough glycogen or break down enough amino acids to be able to keep their blood sugar up. And they need fuel. But what is that right fuel? And what is the dosage so that you can keep your hydration and keep your metabolic system good? And I don't think hardly anybody's paying attention to this in the industry. Very few people are.
Yeah. Well,
say this to people, they're like, oh my God, I wonder what it does to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, I bought Pinoy metabolic testing cart this past spring, so I can do metabolic testing on athletes of all levels, but testing so you're testing their fat to carb burn during the exercise and at rest. But I want to test their glucose as well and start experimenting like that. And it's like, all right, let's do our own protocol and do 3 minutes at each stage and then add in your fuel that you normally do and see what happens. But having a CGM would be so much better than testing their glucose with a
it saves up the finger pricks, and I don't like the finger pricks.
Yeah. No, but I think it's because I'm really into personalization. Like, let's not do everyone's saying this. Let's figure out what I need to do as an individual and what works best for me, and figure out your fueling and training plan and race plan and figure out what works best. But it is good to, be able to see, is this working or not? Or even just, look at your times, look at your heart rate, look at your heart rate variability score the next day. If you don't have access to a CGM, continuous glucose monitor, or pricking your finger, because people don't want to spend the money on that because it does cost a lot to do levels and NutriSense. So it's, if you can get your doctor to give it to you.
Yeah. But, okay. Let a doctor prescribe it. And if you look for deals, we can get them here at CVS for about $40 a month, $42 a month.
Can anyone buy it then?
Huh?
Can anyone just go buy one?
But you just have to talk your doctor into it, because he doesn't have any idea of this stuff. And it's not, it should be over the counter. It's crazy that it's even a prescription thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think most doctors, if you said, look, I got a history of diabetes in my family and I want to do this thing and I'm willing to pay for it out of pocket, and it's going to be, I don't know, $40 or $50 a month. And you may not need it forever, but you learn about yourself a ton. Like with my system right now, I'm very sensitive. A couple blueberries will take me to 160.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I go very low carb, because with my genetics at my age, it just doesn't, I just have to watch it if I want to keep my fasting insulin low and my hemoglobin A1C low, because these things are very longevity tied, and they're also very performance tied, that you manage these things, and there's tools to do it. There's watches now. I bought one of these things, forgot the name of it. It was on Instagram for like $130, and it gives you a glucose level off of your wrist through the blood.
Oh, they have it out now. Is it accurate?
They're out. They're not great, but they're not terrible. So you have to equilibrate the watch. So you poke your finger, and then it says you're 85. And then you set the watch that this level is 85. And I found that it's within 10 or 15 points, which for a cheapo watch and no poking is pretty good. Now, I don't work for them. I don't endorse them. And, it's just within, I think, a pretty not long time, the Apple and everybody else is going to have this technology available, and then everybody can take advantage of it and won't cost anything.
Yeah, I think it's huge to test and not guess and be able to monitor that information so people can get their doctor. I just tried to get my insulin measured when I did my annual checkups. I had to say, yes, type 2 diabetes runs in my family, and just tell them or put it on your history sheet because they don't know if it's true or not. So you just have to add it in there. Same with thyroid. If you want a full thyroid panel, you have to work the system as well. Yes, my hair is falling out. My hands and toes are very cold. It's just kind of add to it. Do what you can. But absolutely. I was going to say, though, I think it's important to figure out the personalization of it, because there's this current trend of everyone that's doing the sprint interval training and men versus women training, and going from this, I just laugh and watch everyone and listen to all these other fellow podcast friends and influencers and coaches that now we're into, okay, eat no carbs, have zero carbs. And then it's, keto, and now it's carnivore, no carbs. And now it's, all right, have carnivore and have all the fruit you want. And I'm totally insulin resistant, prone to that. I'm carb, my genetics all show, I've done all the different reports. I'm carb intolerant. I'm prone to type 2 diabetes. And my friend, I was like, oh, are you adding in your fruit salad in the morning? Fruit's the big thing. And I'm like, I can't have that much of fruit and add that in. So I just think we can't just say everyone needs to do it this way, and really look at personalizing. And a CGM is a good example, and doing the metabolism test, rest and during exercise if you can, because everyone's now saying do carnivore and add fruit and honey. But how much is too much for you is going to be individual.
Yeah, absolutely right. You're completely right. And the idea of carnivore and this Paul Saladino, I'd be a fat slob and diabetic in 3 months on that. I'm like you. My genetics suck in that area. And I got to really watch the carbs. And if I watch the carbs and make it mostly protein with balanced fat and low carb, I don't eat. It's not like no carb, but it's low carb. Yeah. Then I can keep control on it, and then metabolically for my system, for my genetics, for my age, that works out. And I think that's exactly the way it ought to be. Mm-hmm. And you could try and experiment with these things, but if it's not working for you, that's not the right thing for you. We are really
individual. If it's not working, don't keep trying to do it. It's a sign. Do something different. Yeah. So I know we're going to run out of time here, but going back to the protein goal, because I know as I keep talking about the 1 gram of protein per ideal pound of our ideal body weight, but at least get 100 grams a day. And again, we went from doing intermittent fasting and fasted exercise and 1 meal a day. And now it's like, all right, now I got to do 3 meals a day. But I end up eating one main meal, like I just ate at 2:00, and I'm not going to eat another meal before, because I go to bed at 8:00. I get up early, but I go to bed early. But the point is, I think it's so challenging, as you said, to get those protein goals. So that's why I take the amino supplements, because it's impossible for me to eat that much, because I just had tri-tip, a big plate of it, and I'm full. And I'm not going to have another meal before I go to bed, because I'm still going to be full. And I have to take digest enzymes because I don't break it down. So I need to take my enzymes or digestive support, or else it'll sit there for 5 hours. And I know I'm protein deficient, even though I'm eating protein. So note to people, signs and symptoms of malnourishment might be what you're eating, but how you eat it, break it down and absorb it. But I think we do need to supplement, because it's really hard to get enough. So what guidelines would you suggest for people to, we'll put the links in the show notes, but protein, taking the supplements throughout the day, morning, nighttime, before, during, after training, endurance training versus strength training. Any suggestions to finish our conversation today?
Well, I think taking your 10 grams of perfect amino first thing in the morning before you work out is really good. And then doing the calculation. So for me, I need 2 scoops twice a day. And that gives me 60 grams, the equivalent of 60 grams of what dietary protein would be. And then with 3 meals, I can eat another 100 grams of protein, 30 grams of breakfast, 30 grams at lunch, 30 grams at dinner or so. 6 to 7 ounces of steak is probably 40 grams of protein. Same with fish. So you can do it. And the emphasis is on protein. I think the layman research is really good. You need two things. You need muscles and you need a brain. And if you got those two things, you can get those two things by eating protein and then adjusting your calories. Some people tolerate carbohydrates. Well, carbohydrates are a fuel and they're real. And I think if they're coming in a non-refined form, they're good. Depending on what your own metabolic health is. Mm-hmm. And so perfect amino is, if you're doing protein powders, that is not perfect amino. Like collagen, you need 8 essential amino acids in order to make protein. And what people will say, or what the science has said, is that you need 9 or 10 amino acids. We have proven that if you take perfect amino on an empty stomach, measure your serum amino acid levels, take perfect amino 10 grams on an empty stomach, and then check blood levels of the 2 amino acids, which are called conditionally essential, like people probably need them. And one's arginine and the other one's histidine. That if you give it to people, and then we measured at 30 minutes, 60 minutes, and 90 minutes, did the histidine and arginine levels go up when you took perfect amino that didn't have those 2 amino acids in it? And they did. So it is false that you need 9 amino acids. It is false. And so if you take perfect amino, it is 99% utilized to make body protein. And what you want is enough of it coming in so that you never have a deficit. Your body never has a backlog of things that it either wants to make or fix. And then the body can sort of stay with it. And so, people with osteoporosis have long-term protein deficiency because collagen is half of bone, the rest is mineral. And you can give calcium till the cows come home. If you don't build that bone where the calcium sits, you're not going to fix bones. If you're depressed, if you have low hormone levels, if you're anxious, these are all based on amino acids. And I just set a new record for myself of maximum heart rate. I was in a triathlon 3 weeks ago. And there's 5 other guys there, and we're all very competitive with each other. And I came out of the swim. I knew I was first because I'm in the same rack as them and their bikes were still there. And I rode as hard as I could. And when I got off the bike, no one had passed me. And then I started running as hard as I could. And I looked down at my watch and my heart's, I'm at like 192. Like, you're not supposed to be able to do that. The most I'd seen prior was 186. And I was actually fine. I was like, oh my God, how am I doing? Do I have chest pain? I was working hard, but am I in trouble? I was like, no, I'm okay. I'm going to slow down a little bit. But these things rebuild your body. Mm-hmm. And, I can't run as fast as I used to. Aging does occur. But if you take the right stuff in, and amino acids are, like, everybody I see, I put them on at least 10 grams a day, and many people need 20 grams a day. And they see the difference. Their hair's better, their nails are better, their energy's better, their hemoglobin's better, their chronic anemia, and people are giving them iron and the hemoglobin is not going up. And hemoglobin is a protein. It's made out of amino acids. And so all these various factors are really important. And we have thousands and thousands of success stories from people who take perfect amino, who say my chronic plantar fasciitis healed finally, or my lower back disc herniation finally healed. The body's a miracle machine and can do a lot of stuff if it's got the raw materials that it needs in order to do it. Mm-hmm. And those raw materials, there's two essential nutrients, amino acids and essential fats. And there's vitamins and minerals, but there's no essential carb. And so you got to put those two things in, and then I think you'd be surprised at what you can do or how well it helps your own system.
And I think part of that last 10 years, people have been going to low carb, high fat and forgetting about protein. And now protein's back in the spotlight. But then I find most people, as we discussed, don't eat enough protein and they don't digest protein, because I know every lab test I've done, people have elevated H. pylori and low scoring on digest enzymes, almost like 99.9% of the time. So again, it is, are you eating enough protein, but are you breaking down your protein? So I think the great solution is to find out with a blood chemistry and a lab test analysis and correlate all the clues together. But that we do need to supplement and take these building blocks to put our body back together, because we are asking a lot of it and we break it down. And if we're trying to stay youthful, as I am, as I'm in my second half of my life, to live my best life, the second half of my life, I have to take a little bit more ownership of my health and supplement where I need to with what I prioritize muscle health now, and that I need to take amino acids. And people all, are saying, here's my supplement protocol, here's what I'm taking. And I always want to go, okay, let's start with the basics. What do you need to do? What's essential part of life and aging and recovery and repair and everything we're made of? As you said, it's the building blocks.
Right.
So good on you. All right.
Okay.
Well, I know it's evening time for you. You're 3 hours ahead. So we'll let you go, and then we'll add anything else in the show notes that we forgot. And where can people find more about you and your products and your book?
So 2 websites. Our clinic is called LifeWorks Wellness Center. It's all one word. And the product business is called Body Health. So it's bodyhealth.com. On both websites, there's hundreds of videos, lots of information. You can learn about the products, or you can learn about our clinic services. We do see new patients. So if you're interested in seeing us, you can fill out an online form and one of our staff will call you. We're in Clearwater, Florida. If you like warm oceans, it's really nice. It's called Clearwater because the water's nice. And my book is available at Amazon. It's called The Search for the Perfect Protein. It's also available in audiobook form, which I'd suggest because it's there's a live discussion at the end of each chapter between me and another guy to sort of flesh out what's in the book. And it's not a book written for necessarily health professionals. It's really readable. And I think you'll learn a ton about all the ways protein factors into health, and how by increasing your protein through taking amino acids, we call it the perfect protein because these 8 essential amino acids really are the perfect protein, that you can help yourself and live longer and do better.
Yeah, do better. Yeah. Live longer, quality life. I always want to add in, and see people say live longer, but we want to live a higher quality, good, healthy lifestyle as we get older. Yes. For sure. And are you doing, what Ironmans are you doing next year, 2024? Anything on the list?
I'm still looking. I have a really busy travel schedule, and I'm looking. I'm not settled yet, so I can't tell you yet.
Well, I know I'm in Kona this Christmas for a couple of weeks, and then I will be there for Ironman Hawaii, the men's race next year. So hopefully you'll be there racing or watching.
It might be.
Can't miss out. It's always fun.
And it was I hadn't been to Kona in a bunch of years, so it's one of my favorite places on earth.
Yeah, me too. It's my magic healing place and a good place to be and just feel like you can unplug and recharge.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. Thanks so much for your time today. Appreciate it.
Okie doke. Aloha.
Hey, my fellow aging endurance athletes, just a reminder, if you like what you listened to today, make sure to share this episode with your community. Head to debbiepotts.net to set up a free discovery call to learn more about my personalized coaching programs, especially if you are on a mission as myself to improve the aging process and start training to be my best self when I am 80, 90 years old. So I am on a mission to live my best life and be my best self the second half of my life. So if you're on the same mission as me, head over to my website and YouTube channel to learn more ways to improve the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method.
If you would like to try Perfect Aminos, head to bodyhealth.com and receive a discount on your order using our podcast code Low Carb Athlete. I've been using the Perfect Amino tablets and trying to do them 2 to 3 times a day, doing 10 caps at once so I can get 30-gram protein to help that muscle protein synthesis goal of 30 to 50 grams of protein with the right leucine threshold. So that's my current experiment. There also is a Perfect Amino powder. If you'd like to drink some aminos, have that in there. I don't do well with stevia, but this is a great option. Quick and easy. Power meal. Another thing I'm going to add into my 30-day muscle protein program I'm creating for a group online, 30 people. It's called the Perfect Amino Power Meal. And we will be using this in my 30-day program, trying to hit our protein goals with a Perfect Amino Power Meal, and then we'll add 2 real food meals a day. But trying to get that protein goal is pretty challenging. So the Perfect Amino Power Meal is a great alternative if you don't have time for a meal and you're not hungry, as I am. 2 meals I'll get you full for sure when you have enough protein and the right macros for your unique body. But the shake mix is pretty interesting. It's highest quality protein source. It's a low glycemic carbohydrate energy to get your energy up fast. Vitamins and minerals for optimal health. A powerful superfood blend for full spectrum nutrition. MCT oil for long-lasting energy, to keep you full for hours. 150 calories, 0 sugars added. The sweetener they do use is just pure monk fruit extract. Delicious and creamy, dark chocolate or natural vanilla. So check that out. You can head to bodyhealth.com, use our discount code Low Carb Athlete, or I have another option. You can use my full script discount code and you can head there and set up an account and get a discount on your favorite products. So let me know if you have questions, and if you're interested in signing up for our new 30-day group program. It's 6 weeks long, but 30 days of following this muscle protein synthesis food and exercise program. Let me know. Head to debbiepotts.net. Talk soon.
Thanks for listening to the Low Carb Athlete Podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic suggestions, let us know on Facebook or at debbiepotts.net. You can help us continue and grow by leaving a review on iTunes. Thanks again, and see you next time.